the summer, we had a number of different significant storms and flooding incidents, 100-year floods, 500-year floods, whatever you want to call them. And that incurred some significant damage to a lot of homes and a lot of other areas across the state of Michigan, including here in southeastern Michigan in Oakland County. And that has led to response, of course, from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And we're pleased to be joined now by Fema Media Relations Specialist Tanga to talk about some of the services being provided through Fema for those that were affected by these storms. Tanga, thanks for being with us.
Tyler, thank you for having us on to be able to talk about this important event.
Absolutely. So the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, has opened a disaster recovery center in Southfield, and it's been open since Wednesday, October 6th, to help renters, homeowners, and business owners affected specifically by the June 25th and June 26th severe storms and flooding. That center is located in the Southfield Center City Office Buildings Complex at 26,000 Evergreen Road in Southfield, Michigan. So, Tanga, just give us an overview of what can be obtained at this recovery center, what people can seek from assistance from FEMA that people that may have been affected by these floods in June can seek, and how this came to be here in Oakland County.
Okay. First of all, I would like for your listeners and your audience and your anybody viewing to know that the first thing that they can get is good, sound information about how to apply for FEMA. And then after they learn information about how to apply, there's also assistance with the application. We can tell them what they will need. We can help them with the criteria of what it is that we're looking for to try to help them with in their recovery process. All disasters pretty much have a calling card that are consistent with whatever the disaster is related to. And with floods, what we're finding is a lot of people are having problems with appliances and structural damage. And remember, our goal is always to make sure that you're safe, sanitized, and functional. So when we hear about people that are coming in and telling us about the fact that their basements are flooded, there's a consistency that we're looking for with that. Listen carefully is what I would say to anybody that's applying and comes into the Disaster Recovery Center to what the representative is asking. There may be something that you may have that fits outside of that guideline, and that's great. Just make sure that you are able to get pictures and that you're able to describe it. There's one more thing I want to add. The reason we're doing this is because I want anybody that goes into the Disaster Recovery Center to be goal-oriented. You're going in to become eligible for FEMA grants. So the eligibility process is your goal. And in order to do that, make sure you listen carefully, read carefully, and process accordingly.
We're joined by Tanga Hope. She is a FEMA Media Relations Specialist joining us today to talk about FEMA's Disaster Recovery Center that is open now in Southfield, located at 26,000 Evergreen Road. This is to help homeowners, renters, and business owners that were affected by the flooding events on June 25th and June 26th as a result of the severe storms and flooding over the summer. And Tanga, we had so many storms in proximity of that June 25th and June 26th storming event. Does this cover just specifically those that were affected by the storms in that 2-day period, or can this also apply to those that were affected by other storms in the days and the weeks following that 2-day period?
We are still incident oriented, meaning that we are still focused on the June 25th and 26th storms. And as we continue to work through that recovery process, what you've noticed is that with Macomb and Oakland counties, what we're finding is that there are people that incurred damages and were impacted by those storms that have yet to receive support and are still working on their recovery process. So what happens, and just to give you some insight about how this process works, it always starts as a whole community approach. So once the local government, the state government gets together with the federal government, they then assess what is the original need. So we're still working on June 25th and 26th. And as you know, Macomb and Oakland County were just recently added because, as I mentioned, there was definitely an outcry that there was support that was needed from that original incident. So we're continuing to focus, stay mission focused, and work on that one.
We're joined by Tanga Hope. She is the FEMA Media Relations Specialist joining us today on the MegaCast to talk about a FEMA Disaster Recovery Center that has opened at the Southfield City Offices Building Complex, 26,000 Evergreen Road. Their hours, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Saturday. The center is closed today, recognizing the holiday Indigenous Peoples Day, or Columbus Day on October 11th. So they are not open today, but regular hours are 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Before visiting a recovery center, survivors should register for federal assistance in one of the following ways. That is online at disasterassistance.gov, using the FEMA app, or by calling 800-621-3362. Again, 800-621-3362. For TTY users, that is 800-462-7585. TTY users, 800-462-7585. And Tanga, like you said, when you go to one of the disaster recovery centers, you want to be goal-oriented. You want to be very as detailed as possible as you can be when providing that information to FEMA. When people are registering for that assistance, for federal assistance, in one of those ways that I just mentioned, what should they be going into that with? Should they be prepared for in the process of applying for such assistance before they go to one of these centers?
Oh, Tyler, that's a really great question. I'd love to answer that one. You would consider the fact that you're going in as if you were even applying for a new home or a new facility to rent, or anything that would have some type of financial transaction. So you're going to take anything that can verify who you are, anything that can verify where you live, anything that can verify where you are living now. There are some people that have come in and applied for assistance and have become eligible, and we've learned that their places were not habitable, meaning that we can also support if there are people that end up in situations where they cannot live in their homes. We can provide rental assistance until their homes become ready. So in that process, you may need to bring an address proving that you are not living in your home, you're living someplace else. We can help you with that process and find someplace that you can rent until your home becomes ready. So bring that information with you as well. Your social security number will be needed. Anytime the government is giving you money, they're going to want to track that information. Bring a lot of patience and work through that process.
We're joined by Tanga Hope. She is the Federal Emergency Management Agency Media Relations Specialist, joining us today to talk about a disaster recovery center that has opened in Southfield to address renters, homeowners, business owners, and more who were affected by the June 25th and 26th severe storms and flooding. And Tanga, maybe this is outside of your purview, but in regards to the other storming events, is there any discussion so far? Are you aware of any future disaster declarations or assistance that may be available to those that were affected by storms beyond that date?
That would be out of my purview, okay. And this is the reason why. Let me give you some information. We would tend to yield to the people that would know best on how they would want to handle the events that's unfolded within their communities and within their state. So we would yield. Not that we would not be incapable of taking care of it, but we would yield to whatever their direction would be. And that would be, again, on a community effort starting locally and then also with the state. And if they were to ask us to address any of the other events that's unfolded since then, FEMA always stands ready. We prepare. And just to give you one of our little mantras, we tend to say that FEMA works through disasters before, after, and during the disasters. So we will then reply accordingly. We're prepared. We plan for things like this.
Yeah, so this has been, so then that clarifies that this disaster relief has been something that was requested from local and state officials to FEMA, saying, hey, we need additional assistance for this. We have done all that we can to address this issue, but this is well beyond what we are capable of doing alone. We need FEMA's assistance. And from that point forward, the Federal Emergency Management Agency then went forth to set up this disaster recovery center and begin to address how the federal government can provide assistance in this disaster scenario, correct?
Very well synced. Yes, Tyler.
We're joined by Tanga Hope. She is a FEMA media relations specialist joining us to talk about the Disaster Recovery Center that's open in Southfield. That is at 26,000 Evergreen Road in the Southfield Center. Hours 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Saturday. That does not include today, on the day that we are recording and broadcasting this due to the holiday, but Tuesday through Saturday of this week, that office will be open. Before you go, you do need to register for federal assistance, either from disasterassistance.gov using the FEMA app or by calling 800-621-3362, 800-621-3362. For those using a TTY, that is 800-462-7585, 800-462-7585. And Tanga, just another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. When people do apply for this federal assistance and they do go to the Disaster Recovery Center, how soon after can they expect results from their case in terms of being approved for that federal relief, receiving that federal relief? What is generally the timeline in these manners?
In exceptional cases where people come in totally prepared, they have everything that we need and we're able to expedite things without any hiccups or red tapes, they can see money in their accounts as early as 10 days. There are some people where the process can be completed within 2 weeks to 30 days. And then there are those that will end up, and this is very important, receiving a denial letter. And I'd like to address that very quickly. What happens when you receive a denial letter, FEMA is not stating that you are incapable of receiving support via grants from the federal government. What we are merely communicating is that there's a problem with your process. We encourage you to read carefully and to respond accordingly. I always use the analogy that sometimes people may click thinking that they're choosing Michigan. Miami is right up above that. And incidentally, if you're not paying attention, you may end up clicking on Miami as opposed to Michigan. Now, because this is a federal document, we cannot change that, although we know that you meant to click on Michigan. And it could be that simple. Sometimes it can be a bit more complicated, but you can work through that process. And if you don't agree with the process that we deny you for, and you feel that we have misunderstood what it is that you cited to be your incurred damages, please file the appeals. We are here to help. We just have to work through that process. Work with us. It usually benefits you.
We're joined by Tanga Hope. She's a media relations specialist with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Their Disaster Recovery Center has been set up in Southfield to address renters, business owners, and homeowners that were affected by the flooding events as a result of severe weather on June 25th and 26th of 2021. At the Disaster Recovery Center, you can do a number of different things, from register for FEMA assistance by using the phone banks at the center, check the status of your application, meet with an applicant assistance representative from FEMA, discuss the U.S. Small Business Administration's low-interest disaster relief loans, obtain information about additional resources available and how to reduce future damage, and more. Tanga, just another minute or so with you before we'll say goodbye today. Any other information that would be important for people to know about this disaster declaration, about receiving this relief that we haven't discussed yet today?
You just hit the nail on the head with all of the information you recently provided. We work in tandem with the SBA group, and we do this with the Small Business Agency, and we do it for a reason. There are people that have huge damages that they've incurred. And what happens is, should they find themselves in situations that they'll go, the safe, sanitary, and functional status does not work for them, and they're aiming to get recouped or to get their homes restored fully functional to a point that they go, this is not satisfying for me, Small Business Administration is available to make sure that if you'd like to take out a loan, they do this with low interest. I have a colleague that's available, and you may want to have them on to speak about that in detail, because that's a different lane, but I can tell you about the availability of that process and how it has been supportive, and they've made money available to people with small businesses, people that are renters, and even the homeowners. And again, these are very competitive rates, below standard rates, and they work with people as well to help with that recovery process.
Well, Tanga, we appreciate your time and giving us some more information about how people can receive this very necessary disaster relief in many cases to help them recover their homes and their businesses as a result of some of these 100-year and 500-year and 1,000-year storms and floods that we had over the summer. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Can I add one other element?
Sure, please.
Okay. We have DSA teams, disaster survivor assistant teams. They're out canvassing your neighborhoods. So you'll see people in blouse. They may have on something with something recognizable, but they're out knocking on doors, and they can provide you with some of the same assistance that you can get at the disaster recovery centers. Be sure to look for the FEMA locale decal. Be sure to look for a name badge, but they're there to assist and to help also. And I just wanted to put that information out there in case one of my team members knock on a door to assist.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for all the information, Tanga.
Thank you all very much.